What's up, nerds? Today we're going to be talking about the tank parse specifically. What this stuff means. I have a screenshot of a recent demiplane raid right here in all its glory, and I will just start at the top and dig in as we go. So our first column is obviously the name of the character. We won't spend any more time on that one. Next, percent total. This is the percent of total damage this player has taken throughout the entire raid. That's it. This column is damaged. So this is the raw number of damage the players have actually taken. So we've got 287 mobs in 7,232 seconds of 16.17 million damage tanked at 2.24 thousand damage per second. Zub, our main warrior tank, took the most damage. Excellent, as he should. Joe Blob, Shadow Knight, off tank, lots of trash, taking lots of damage. Yay. Another off tank, warrior, off tank, good. We want to see our off tanks, well, all of our tanks in the top most spots. Perfect. Healed, this is just how much that person has been healed. DPS, so this is the damage per second the character has taken. So throughout the entire raid, Zub has taken 519 damage per second. Just averaged. Obviously there's downtime where he's taking 0, but when he's tanking bosses, he's probably taking something like 3,000, whatever. Just the average number throughout the entire raid. There's a big jump here, and it is not necessarily intuitive just based on the numbers, but knowing Joe Blob is an off tank tanking trash that hits significantly less hard as bosses, that would easily explain the difference that our warrior tank, even though he is much beefier with more hit points and AC and etc., he's going to be taking a lot more damage per second and damage than any other off tanks because he is tanking bosses. So that doesn't really mean anything, it's just an explanation of why he's taking more damage, because it doesn't show that he's tanking bosses. You can just look at this and be like, oh, he's taking more damage per second. Zub sucks. No, he's tanking bosses, which hit harder. SDPS, that doesn't matter as much. That just means throughout the entire raid, including like downtime, etc., that's how much damage per second you're taking. This one doesn't necessarily mean as much at the moment. Seconds is just how many seconds you're in combat. We want our tanks to be as high as possible so that they're always engaged and taking the hits instead of our squishy companions. The number of hits is just that, the number of times a mob has hit you. So he's taken 2,014 hits, I took 2,354 hits, Mac took 822, that just means that's the number of times a mob actually hit you. This maximum hit column takes a little bit of background knowledge. So for example, Zub got hit for 9,600 damage for his maximum hit. I got hit for 7,800 damage. Mac got hit for 85,000 damage. Now, they're very different numbers, and I will explain that this one, Zub took 9,600. These two right here, that is the zombie exploding AoE for 12,000 damage. Now, I know that because we can come down here and look at a pet that got hit for the full amount. It is spell damage. That gets reduced by heroic int and wisdom. Now I can infer that Zub does not have capped int or wisdom, heroic. I do. So I took significantly less damage from that AoE, just because I have capped heroic int. This 85,000 is a death touch. Could have been from anything, a gargoyle or not handvar, whatever the hatchet. Always get those mixed up. Hatchet with his death touch, 100k. Now I can tell you, easy math, 15,000. He's got 15 heroic, int, or wisdom. Same with this stuff. So Sadris looks like he's got probably 9 heroic, int, or wisdom, and he had a rune on. I'm guessing from his one-hander. The eulogy. This guy's hidden's only got 8, etc., etc. And then you can look at an intelligence or wisdom caster who has the gear. 65,000. That means he's got 35 heroic wisdom. That's 35% right off the top. 100, you get 65k. So that just kind of explains the max hit and the different numbers and how you can kind of infer some stuff. Average hit column, that just means on average throughout all of the hits, he on average gets hit for almost 1100. Again, it's going to be higher because he's getting hit by bosses. I'm only getting hit by trash. Mac apparently needs some heroic stamina or more AC. Accuracy and percent hit. This is kind of matters and doesn't at the same time. So, for example, this is the mob's accuracy on hitting this player. So 36% of the time, on average, the mobs hit Zub. 35.5% they hit me. Now, that's not a very big difference, but again, he's tanking bosses, which likely have a higher accuracy, and they might even have some strike through. I don't know if we're into that era yet, but strike through will bypass dodge, block, parry, riposte, etc. They'll hit you through that. But in this case, pretty close, almost within the margin of error, doesn't really matter much. That's just how accurate the mobs are in hitting you. So 35 times out of 100, the mob's going to hit me. This percent hit is how they actually hit you. So this will take into account your dodge, block, parry, riposte. So they would have hit you, but then you dodged or blocked or whatever. So again, pretty close, within a percent, just about. And that could come down to heroic agility or Ixar class versus ogre, or he's tanking bosses, I'm not, etc., etc. Now, one difference here that's pretty significant is that these two Shadow Knights, he's got a 35% and I got a 31. That's probably just going to come down to gear. I'm going to guess he's not heroic agility capped because it's a box. It's tough to get all the things you need. And this, I would say, is probably the bread and butter, the main thing that matters on the tank parse. The number of attempts means how many times mobs tried to hit you. Now this can mean a couple different things, but mostly what it means is you're tanking the mobs and they're trying to hit you. So the more mobs you tank, the more attempts they get to hit you, which means you're tanking lots of mobs if you have high numbers. So you can see Zub, main tank, getting hit by bosses all the time, picking up trash, etc. Shadow Knight, trash, lots of trash. He's a box, still picking up lots of trash. Bobin's picking up lots of trash. Wheelchair, we like to call him, is also picking up trash. And that's what we want to see from our tanks. Sadris is newer. He doesn't have the gear yet. Otherwise, he'll get smushed. As you can see, he gets hit a lot more often for a lot more damage. He just needs gear. That'll come. But we got a rogue. Doesn't get hit very often. Perfect. Bard. Pretty high for a bard, but he's our puller. So again, just some background knowledge. It's not necessarily intuitive, but he gets hit a lot because he's pulling a lot. And so on. But what we really want to see in the number of attempts is the mobs hitting tanks. So, perfect. Rampage is the percent of total damage you've taken that is rampage damage. So for example, a warrior who's tanking isn't usually going to get rampaged a lot, so he's only got 3.5% of the total damage he's taken is from rampage. Me, same thing. I don't really do rampage tanking at the moment. That's usually reserved for paladin. And we've got a paladin here, which is 10.5, which is why, he's taking rampage damage. Rampage. Now, some of the stuff here, rogue. You see the rogue is high on the tank parse because he's taking a lot of damage. Some of the background knowledge is just looking at this rampage. Over half of the damage he's taken is simply from rampage. So he's not pulling aggro or tanking trash or whatever. He's just getting hit by AoEs and rampage. Part of the solution to that is to stay at max melee range to kind of reduce the damage you take from that. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but something like 82 or 83% of the damage this guy's taken was all rampage. Just got to back up a little bit. Saves our healers some attention and mana, etc. Then we got the special column. That just means you're popping cooldowns. X is kind of like a generic cooldown. It can go for multiple different cooldowns. H I know because I'm a Shadow Knight, it's Harm Touch. The 7 is your intensity of the Resolute, your 4-hour humongous DPS boost cooldown. Yeah, for the different classes, X means, Leo popped intensity of the Resolute and some other cooldowns, etc. Class is sort of straightforward, just says the class it is, but if they've persona'd, and the last time I was around them, it shows Rogue over here for Zub. He's a warrior, but the last I saw him was as a rogue, so it just shows up as Rogue. I can fix it in the parse, but I don't always see it, and I'm not going to go through every person every time to change stuff. But that's it. Quick rundown of the tank parse. Let me know if you got any more questions. Bye!